Now here's Rooney!
Wayne Rooney was a special footballer. One of the best of his generation. He was capable of scoring screamers, pinging a 50-yard pass across the pitch, and both on and off the ball, he was an all-round physical monster. But arguably, none of these were his greatest strength. The best Wayne Rooney? Was it an angry Wayne Rooney? This is a story of how anger fueled one of the world's best footballers. It was one of his biggest strengths, but also undoubtedly one of his greatest weaknesses. Let me show you how with definitive moments throughout Rooney's career, as well as hearing Rooney explain it himself.
Only Wayne Rooney can produce a piece of genius like that!
To begin, let's rewind to 2005. Of the 253 goals Rooney scored in his record-breaking Man United career, one stands above the rest. Yeah. That one.
Rooney! Oh my goodness me! That is one of the strengths.
United were trailing Chelsea by 15 points come April in Rooney's first season at United. He hadn't scored in 5 games and was already frustrated coming into the match against Newcastle. And throughout the match, Rooney became more and more angry with the referee. Alan Shearer was committing foul after foul, but the referee refused to book him. If that was me, I know 100% I'd have a yellow card, Rooney said after the game. On top of this, Rooney was struggling with a dead leg and was about to be subbed for Cleberson. The anger and frustration started to bubble up and Rooney directed a volley of abuse at the referee. But just a few seconds later, he'd unleash a volley of a very different kind. Roy Keane's lofted ball from deep was headed away from the Newcastle box and Rooney powered a volatile cocktail of anger and frustration, angered at the ball as it fell from the sky, and he smashed a right foot volley right into the back of the net. Speaking after the game, he said, "It was just sheer anger and aggression, and it turned out to be one of the best goals I've ever scored."
It's probably one of the cleanest I've ever caught a ball.
It's an iconic Premier League moment that embodies a single player, maybe better than any other. But what was it that made England's most gifted footballer celebrate some of his goals as if he were retaliating against an enemy? When you bother to scratch beneath the surface, the answer becomes quite obvious. At just 16, Wayne Rooney was plucked out of his life in a deprived area of Liverpool, placed slap bang in the centre of the spotlight, and left standing on his own, whilst all sections of the media relentlessly mocked him, his accent, his lack of media training, his appearance, and even his parents were all fair game to the media back then. Imagine a young English player in the modern day being constantly referred to as Shrek. It wouldn't happen now. He was even targeted by non-football media. Classism was a huge factor, and being from a working class background influenced how Rooney dealt with everything. He was conditioned to bottle things up, to refuse to show vulnerability, and to just let the pressure build and build until it blew. Speaking about his youth, Rooney said growing up on a council estate, you would never actually go and speak to anyone. You would always find a way to deal with it yourself. It was trying to cope with it, rather than asking for help. And in his early years at United, Rooney said he'd never go out. And when he'd get a couple of days off from football, he'd lock himself away and just drink in order to forget all the issues he was having to deal with. But his performances weren't impacted. In 2011, Rooney scored a hat-trick in a 4-2 come-from-behind win against West Ham, and how did he celebrate? He looked directly down the camera and angrily shouted, "Yeah, you know what," to the whole world. He was given a 2-match ban and missed a crucial FA Cup semi against City, which United lost. But that's just the price you had to pay if you wanted the best version of Wayne Rooney. You had to forgive him being sent off for angrily throwing the ball away against Fulham, and for getting an immediate second yellow from this familiar face after sarcastically clapping his decision to award a foul against Rooney. The anger and aggression that got the better of him in these moments was the same that fueled him to chase down lost causes, go in strongly and win challenges that was 70-30 in the opposition's favour, attack a drop ball situation like the opposition player had just offended his mum right to Rooney's face, and to play on through injury, usually to his own detriment. You could argue that he became Keane's successor as the embodiment on the pitch of Sir Alex Ferguson's. After all, Sir Alex wasn't exactly known for having his temper under control, and Rooney has even said himself, "Not being in my right head gave me that added unpredictability." And these outbursts definitely weren't a choice for Rooney. It was something he couldn't control. 2006 against Portugal and Germany, and Rooney's comments on that incident to this day show us exactly that. That red against Portugal. Rooney was having a frustrating tournament. He's since admitted that he was hiding a 6cm tear in his groin from everyone. And a battle for the ball with Ricardo Carvalho on the halfway line ended with Rooney stamping on Carvalho on his balls. Was it a stamp? Was it an accident? See, the problem is, to this day, Wayne Rooney doesn't even know himself. But by this point, Rooney had already gained a reputation and he was sent off. Later that summer in a pre-season friendly for United, he was sent off for an elbow when jumping for the ball against Pepe. his reputation played a part, as he was suspended for 3 games. Yeah, that's right. The Premier League suspended him for 3 games for a foul he committed in a pre-season match. He went on to win his first Premier League title that season, and he was one of the most important pieces during the most successful period in United's history. Whether it was as part of the famous Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez front 3, playing wide on the left in big games to accommodate Ronaldo's lack of defensive output, playing as a number 10 and providing for Van Persie, or being the main man up front and scoring 34 goals in 44 appearances, Rooney could be counted on to perform. Even in the 2013-14 season under David Moyes, Rooney performed. And it's during this season when we saw the last of Rooney's uncontrollable anger. During the first half of the game against Cardiff, he was chasing down the ball, and when Jordan Much stepped across him, Rooney booted out his legs. He stayed on the pitch, but he should have been sent off. David Moyes was questioned after the match. "I don't want to change Wayne Rooney, that's for sure," he said. "I want him aggressive, challenging, full of running. He's an aggressive player, plays with his heart, as well as the skills he's got in abundance. That's a big part of what he is. That's the way he was when he was a boy at Everton with me." Moyes was spot on, and 2013-14 would be Rooney's last season as a top player. He was made both England and United captain the following season and began to mellow as he tried to lead by example on the pitch. The anger that had fueled him previously appeared to have disappeared. And his last 3 seasons as a United player were quite hard to watch at times. He'd lost a yard of pace, but more importantly, he'd lost that anger. That burning fury that once fueled him was gone. And Rooney was left in a better place personally, but on the pitch, he'd lost that little something that made him special. It's easy to see why Wayne Rooney was so angry throughout his career. That anger burned away inside of him and could manifest himself in many different ways, and while it did, it fueled him to greatness. He won everything that he could as a Manchester United player, 5 league titles and a Champions League. There were lows scattered throughout a career that reached the highest of highs, but that's part of what made this footballing genius and force of nature on the pitch strangely relatable. He was fallible. He was an ordinary young lad with an incredible gift thrust into an extraordinary situation. And now that it's all said and done, I'd say he did all right for himself.